Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, and freaks of nature of all ages. My name is Brian Bad Hippie Jackson, and welcome to my channel. And welcome back to the next episode in Let's Build Treasures of the Dead with UDK. Now in the last episode we put in one of the last gates. I've still got one or two more gates to put in. I'll do that off camera, but we learned how to go ahead and bring in the static meshes, how to convert them into interp actors so that they can move and be animated. We learned how to give the interp actors a collision so that they'll block your passage, and then we learned how to set in a trigger and use that trigger to use a touch trigger to bring up a prompt, and also a use trigger to be able to open the gate, and we learned how to use our matinee to animate that. Now we're going to get into a little bit of a different kind of matinee with this one. What we're going to be doing is building a spike trap of sorts, and we're going to have to put a damage zone around that so that if the spikes hit you, they will kill you dead. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up our content browser. We don't need any sounds right now. We don't need anything in UT3 opened. We're going to grab our tutorial package and fully load it. We're going to go to meshes, and I haven't experimented with this yet, so I don't know if I want to use this gate mesh for the spikes or this gate mesh for the spikes. So let's just go ahead and grab the big one first, pull it in, minimize the content browser, and we're going to go ahead and that might be too big, so we're going to hit Control X and get rid of it. We're going to bring the content browser back up, and we're going to select the smaller gate. There we go, right there. Close the content browser because we don't need it anymore. We're going to grab this mesh, and we are going to hit rotate. Actually, we're not even going to hit rotate yet. We're going to grab our mesh, we're going to hit Alt, and we're going to drag off a copy because we're going to need two spiky traps. So we're going to grab this one, we're going to hit rotate, and we're going to rotate it -90 degrees, and then bring it back up so it's pretty much level. We're going to have to adjust some of that size. Then we're going to grab our other gate, and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees so that the spikes are pointing in the other direction. Bring it back up so that it's more level. Right there. Now we're going to zoom in on them. We're going to go ahead and make this bottom section a bit bigger. And let's see, where are my gates? Oh, they're right there. Can't really see them from that angle, but I can see them from this angle. So we're going to hit non-uniform scale, and we're going to scale them down in size so that they match up with the ceiling and the floor. Let's go ahead and grab the second gate and do the same thing with it. Scale it down in size so that it matches up with the ceiling and the floor. Okay, now we've got that done. Now what we can do is take those two gates, let's bring that back down pretty low. We don't really need to be able to see that side view just yet. And we're going to hit our translate, and we're going to move this gate up to right about there, and we're going to move it out to right about there so that we can see it poking out of the wall. And we're actually going to need to move it down just a tad because we don't want that part sticking out of the ceiling. So no, let's not move it down, let's just scale it down. So we're going to grab non-uniform scale, and we're going to scale it down one more little. There we go. Now we don't have anything sticking out of the ceiling or the floor. Let's go ahead and do the same thing with the other one. Scale it down right about there. Okay, now we can grab that one and put it at about the same location as the other one is, and then make sure it's barely poking out of the wall, a little bit more. There we go, just like that, so that we can see the spikes poking out of the wall when we first get there. Okay, now before we can animate these, we of course have to convert them to a mover. Let's see how far out they go. Right there. Right there. That's not going to be quite wide enough, so we're going to grab non-uniform scale and we're going to make it a bit wider. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. Non-uniform scale. Make it, oops, that's the wrong direction. Make it a bit wider so that when they come out, they pretty much meet. There, and that's going to bring it right out to the edge of the wall. Let's grab this other one and bring it out to the edge of the wall, and that's not going to be wide enough for us to get our player through. So next we need to convert them into a mover. So let's right click, convert static mesh actor to mover, and that one's converted. Let's grab the other one and do the same thing, convert to mover. Now they are both animatable. Alright, we also need to right click and set our collision type to block all, because once we convert it to a mover it will have no collision, so we need to add our collision back in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our builder brush and we're going to center that builder brush up on these meshes. There we go. And we're going to create a damage volume. So the first thing we're going to do is hit non-uniform scale. We're going to zoom in really tight and we're going to bring this way in. And we actually want to bring it in far enough that it's on the inside of that box, and then we want to bring it out so that it extends just past the point, just like that. Then we're going to go over to volumes. We're going to click on volumes and we're going to select dynamic physics volume. And now if we move this builder brush out of the way, we have a dynamic physics volume which will create damage if it hits us. So we're going to hit F4 to set this damage type. We're going to set the damage type to crushed. We're going to check the box that says pain causing, which will make it hurt us. And we're going to set the damage per second to, actually we're going to set that to 150, because the box is thin enough that it's going to have to, the spikes are actually going to have to hit us from the sides, because we don't want it to kill us if we hit it from the outside. That's not going to impale us, it's just going to block our movement. It's going to have to hit us from this side, and there's not a lot of damage volume there, so we want to set it really high so as soon as it hits us, it kills us. Then we're going to grab that damage volume, we're going to hold Alt and drag off a copy, and we're going to put that copy right there on the other one. So now we see that our damage volume will meet in the middle. And if it hits us, we are a toasty dead overhead Z. And go ahead and hit that. Take that builder brush back to its original size. Let's get it out of the way. We don't need it anymore. And now we're ready to start animating these volumes. Now, when the game starts, it won't do anything, and we don't want those trigger or those spike things moving when the game starts. So we're going to set a trigger volume for starting them. Now, since we have a gold pickup right there, we're going to go ahead and use that trigger because we're going to walk across that trigger to pick up the gold anyway. So instead of having to bring in another trigger, we're just going to use that trigger to start that animation. So now let's open up our Kismet, and we're going to create a new sequence. So we're going to start from scratch, and we're going to do a new event, a touch event, using that trigger that we just selected. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and let's move this out of the way. Well, we don't need to move that out of the way. Let's go ahead and select that gate right there. We're going to right click and create a new matinee. We're going to open that matinee up, and we're going to create a new empty group, and we're going to call that spikes. Within that new empty group, let's move this out, and we'll set our end point so we don't have that same kind of flubby we did in the last one when we put our sound in first, and when we hit the wrong go to track endpoint thing, it went all the way to the end of the sound. We'll get our track endpoint set before we put in our sound, so we don't have to worry about that happening again. Alright, so with that gate selected, we're going to right click on spikes, and we're going to add a new movement track. Now we're going to select this gate, or this spike. We're going to right click on spikes and add a new movement track. So now we've got a movement track for that gate. It didn't give me the movement track for the other gate. So let's delete that movement track. We need to select that gate. We'll do it separately. I'll show you how to copy paste stuff. Alright, so with that movement track selected, we want it to start where it is, and then we're going to have to take about a second to a second and a half to move everything back. And actually, let's try something. Let's delete that track, and let's select the track and the damage volume. Add new movement track, and we should be able to move both the spikes and the volume at the same time. So let's set that to about 0.5 and add a new keyframe. Right click, set time 0.5, and then we're going to, oh crap, didn't mean to do that. Grab that movement track, and we're going to move that up. It's not going to move our damage volume at the same time, it's just going to move our spikes. So we're going to move that to 0.5. Alright. Oh, it didn't key. Alright. So I guess I can't do both at the same time. So with that selected there, right click, new movement track, move that to 0.5. Actually, let's move it to 1. There we go. Select that track, hit enter, right click, set time. We want it at 1. And now we're going to grab that gate and move it back into the wall. There we go. And now if we hit play, our gate will move. Now what we're going to do is we want it to move back into the wall kind of slowly, and then we want it to give a brief pause and then jump out at us really quick. So we're going to set the next key at 1.5, hit enter, right click, set time 1.5, and we don't want to move it at all on that one. And then we're going to set our next key at 1.75. so it jumps out at us real fast. Set time 1.75. Oops, I set that wrong. I hit 8 instead of 7. Set time 1.75. There we go, right there. And now we're going to grab that and we're going to move it back out to right there, to where it needs to be. Let's go ahead and minimize that. We can move that over, go back up here, zoom in, and we can see it's right where it needs to be. So if we pop that open, we've got it moves back, boom. And that's going to be the end of that. Well, actually not quite the end. We want it to have a brief pause before it starts moving back again. So let's go to 2, hit our key, set the key to exactly 2. And then we're going to grab this before we put in any sound, right click, and move to longest selected track endpoint. Now we're going to go find that red one and do the same thing with it. And now we've got our track endpoints set properly, and we don't have to worry about it getting screwed up because of sound. So if we hit back and then click play loop selection, it moves back, boom, moves back, boom, back, boom, which is going to make it a little bit more challenging to get through. All right. Now we're going to select this damage zone. And we're going to add a new empty group, and we're going to call it damage 01. And let's grab this spike and rename it spike 01. There we go. And in damage 01, with that damage zone selected, we're going to add a new movement track. Our first keyframe is right where it needs to be. Let's select our second keyframe, then select our damage zone and move it back even with the wall so that it won't hurt us when it's back there. Oh, I didn't key it. There we go. Select that. Did I put an extra keyframe in up here? Oh, 1.25. I did not. Okay, so we're good to go there. All right. So now we're going to select that movement track there. We're going to hit enter to add our keyframe. We have to add our keyframe before we change our movement. And we're going to move that back even with the wall. Then we're going to select the third keyframe. We don't need any movement there. We're just going to key it in. We're going to select the fourth keyframe, which is all the way back out there. We're going to add a key, and we're going to move it back out right there. Then we're going to select the last keyframe, and we're just going to key it and leave it right there. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side with the other two. So we're going to select our gate, our spiky trap. We're going to right click, add new empty group, and we're going to call this spike 2. We're going to create a new movement track. Keyframe 1 is where it needs to be. So we're going to select our second key. We're going to select our movement track. We're going to hit enter. And then we're going to take that and move it back into the wall where the other one was. Then we're going to select that key and hit enter. That's our pause. We're going to select the next key, hit enter to create a keyframe, and move it right back out there where it needs to be. And then we're going to select the last key, our movement track, and hit enter. Now we're going to select our other damage zone. right click, new empty group, damage 02, right click, new movement track. Our first keyframe is right where it needs to be. We're going to select our second keyframe, hit enter, and then we're going to move that back even with the wall. We're going to select the next keyframe, hit enter. We don't need to move anything. Select the next keyframe, hit enter, and move our damage zone back out to there, and select the last keyframe for our pause and hit enter. Now that should make both gates and both damage zones move completely in unison. They should move outwards slowly, pause, then jump back in real quick, pause, and move outward slowly again. So let's go ahead and loop animation. Boom. 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 Absolutely great. That is exactly what we want. And let's go ahead and get rid of the highlighted stuff. Perfect. Okay, now what we're going to do is we need to add some sound. So let's pop open our content browser and let's hit all assets, select sound cues, and then select wood. And our tire wood surface is one of the sounds that we're going to use. We're also going to need a slamming shut kind of sound. But we're going to go ahead and select that one first. We're going to minimize our content browser. And we're going to right click, add new empty group. We're going to call it sound. We're going to hit OK. We're going to right click. We're going to add a new soundtrack, and at the first point is where we're going to add that sound, so we're going to hit that right there. So, and now that'll play all the way through, and we don't really want it playing all the way through. So we want it to see, it's going to play to the end. So we need to go to here and let's see, file, edit. We're going to have to insert some silence. So edit. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to add our other sounds in first. So here is where we're going to have it slam shut. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and pop open our content browser again, and we're going to type in door. We're going to use Metal 03 because we can. We're going to leave that selected. We're going to minimize that. We're going to select our soundtrack, and we're going to hit enter. Okay, and that's going to slam some stuff shut. Now we're going to right click, and we're going to add a new director group, which that's going to come up here. Okay, and we're going to select this area right here. We're going to right click on director group, and we're going to add where is our track that we need? Notify audio master track. We're going to hit enter on that keyframe. And on that, we're going to set master volume to 0. And then we're going to do the same thing right there. Select the audio master, hit 0, or add that, set master volume to 0. So that should enable us to have the movement go to there, then it's going to be silent until it slams shut, and then it'll be silent while it pauses. If I did it right. Let's find out. Aha. That's what little bit of a flub. So we need to take that audio master, add another key, and set the master volume to 1. So now our movement does like this. Alright, and we need to add one more keyframe in there. So we're going to select this keyframe, and we're going to jump back just a fraction of a second. Because what's happening is it's going from silent and then slowly going back up to 1, so we get a little bit of extra sound that we don't want. So we're going to move it back just a fraction of a second from 1.5 to, let's go to 1.75, hit enter, right click, set time, .475, so it's just before that keyframe, and we're going to set master volume to 0 on that one. Now let's try it. There we go. And that works absolutely beautifully. That's exactly what we want. Now what we're going to do is pull our Kismet back open, and we're going to grab that trigger, and we're going to have it play whenever we hit that trigger. And we're not going to worry about turning it off, because right after that is the level end, so it will turn off when we end the level. So we don't ever have to worry about putting in a trigger to turn that gate off. So we're going to have to avoid the gate to get to the treasure, and then avoid the gate to get out with the treasure. And let's go ahead and hold Control and Alt. We're going to drag across this whole thing. Actually, we're going to not drag across this whole thing, because all of our stuff is kind of bunched up, and I would prefer it to be not bunched up, so that it's easier for me to find and work with stuff if I find bugs and I need to debug it. There we go. Now we're going to hold Alt. We're going to drag out over the whole thing. We're going to right click, create new sequence, and we're going to call this Spike Trap. And now we have a Spike Trap sequence, because that is the only spike trap in the level. We don't need to create a subsequence. Alright, so let's go down to, we're going to need to rebuild our lighting as well. We're going to go down to over right around here. Let's just go up into this room somewhere. Right click, play from here. And we can do all this stuff. And you know me, I like to grab everything full health. I know what we did. It only worked one time because we didn't set our Kismet to loop. So we need to select our matinee, and then down in our matinee we need to select looping. And to show you the difference, we're going to go ahead and open that matinee back up. We're going to go over to where the walls are, or the traps are. We went the wrong way. Where's it at? Where's it at? There it is. And when we were doing it, building it, we clicked on loop animation. Now that we've set our matinee itself to loop, if we just click on play, it'll automatically loop. And we're actually going to set in one more keyframe for our audio master. We're going to pull that back from 1. Going to hit that, and we're going to set time to 0.975. And then we're going to click and set master volume to 1. And that way, because what's happening is it's going from 1 to 0 and fading as it goes. And then the other one, it was going from 0 to 1 and fading in as it went. So if we set a keyframe just barely before them, we don't get any fade on in or out on the sound. That's much better. That's much better. Okay, so let's go back over here. And we're going to start just right up in here. Right click, play from here. And when we hit this gold, it should start that trap. And it did, and it's looping. Go. Now let's see if it kills us. Deader than a doornail. Awesome. And now we start back at the player start. So we do need to silence that. So let's go back to our teleport area. That's where we teleport in on. Where's our last checkpoint? There's our last checkpoint right there. So let's grab that trigger for that checkpoint. Let's open up our spike trap. Let's create a new event using trigger 13, which is a checkpoint. It's touched. And let's move that. Oop, not to pause. Break link. To stop. Alright. So what that's going to do is if we get killed by that wall, let's go ahead and change this to unlit and play from here. Right. If we get killed by that wall, checkpoint, then we'll go back to that checkpoint. So we're going to just run around real quick, pick up everything, and get to the wall. Okay, shouldn't be too very much longer. This is the longest episode we've made so far. It's already a little over 30 minutes, but it's okay, because we did some pretty intricate stuff with our matinee. And you learned how to build damage volumes that will fuck you up when you hit them. There we go. Now we can run back this way. And get to our teleporter. There we are. And now our trap starts. And if we get killed by it, then when we respawn, what did we do wrong? Oh, that triggers a 1 use, so we need to set that to 0. That's what we did wrong. Okay, so let's try that again. Okay, we're going to hit that, and now I'm going to pause. Okay, and now we're unpaused. There we go, and it killed us. And we restart at the checkpoint with the trap turned off, and we need to make our way all the way back over there to turn it on again. So everything works just fine. It's actually a pretty easy trap to avoid, but it adds a little bit something extra. You have to be dead center between them for it to hit you, but I really didn't want it to kill you if you hit the outside of the gate. It really wouldn't do that. So it's going to be a fairly easy trap to avoid, but it does add a little bit of variety, and that's our first spike trap. Now the only thing we have left to do is rebuild our lighting, so let's go ahead and do that. Well, let's go ahead and do this. There we go, and let's go ahead and rebuild all just to make sure. Alright, there we go. Lighting is good and built. Everything is good and built. Now we're just going to go ahead and save our current level, and we're good to go. The only thing left in this one is to put cartoon textures on those gates, or those spiky gates, and to build a few other gates. I think I've got 2 more gates I need to put in, and I'll do the rest of that off camera, and then level 1 will be completely finished with the exception of shoot code and enemies. Please do not forget to check the links in the description below for the Disabled American Veterans and the Wounded Warriors Project. Let's please help support our veterans. If you like the video, then hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends and family to hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Please don't forget to leave me a comment. They're always welcome, good, bad, or somewhere in between. Thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate your love, your support, your encouragement, and your patience with me. I love every one of you guys. You're the best in the world. You are, as Samantha says, the titty sprinkles. I love you guys. And until next time, this is Brian Bad Hippie Jackson saying peace, love, clean underwear, and happy gaming.